Hi, my name is Romeo. Welcome back to Start Pages. If you've noticed that I've been away for a while, it's because I haven't been reading much because I did start my first year of university this year, like September onwards, and before September I had like CAPE exams for high school to get into university. So this year was kind of stressful, so I haven't been reading much, and the books that I did read, I didn't have time to like write reviews for them and fill them. So I'm going to be trying to review the books that I read this year. Try the end of December, early January, because I still have final exams now. But today we're going to be talking about Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington, which was one of my most anticipated reads for 2023. But unfortunately it disappointed me a lot. It was very disappointing. We're going to be talking about why it was so disappointing. So anyway, I have my notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So Their Vicious Games follows Adina Walker, a black high achieving student on scholarship at the prestigious Edgewater Academy. After years of being the perfect student, she makes one mistake, gets into one fight and loses everything: her valedictorian position and her spot at her top choice Ivy League college, and the chance to attend any other. Her only chance at regaining everything lost is to win the high-stakes competition sponsored by Edgewater's founding family, the Remingtons. But after getting a spot in the competition, named the finish, Adina finds the stakes are much higher and deadlier than she thought. So I gave this book 2.5 stars, a very disappointing 2.5 stars. So the points that I'm going to be talking about, the reason I gave this book 2.5 stars. So the author mentions frequently in promotion, in the description, and like whenever she's talking about this book, she mentions that this book is a satire. So we're going to be talking about the satirical element of the promotion of the book, or the satirical element that the book is supposed to have. Then we're going to be talking about the romance, the actual finish itself, the characters, and another element that I'm going to leave to the end because I really want to cuss about this, but I don't want to spoil what I'm going to cuss about. So one of the reasons, I feel like if I wasn't as hyped for this book, I could have given it a low 3 stars. But I had been following this book since the book got picked up by a publisher. Since the author announced that the book was picked up by a publisher, I have been following the journey for this book. I've been following this author for a good while, and I've been hearing about the synopsis. I've been building up my excitement for Adina's story, and then I just didn't like it, which is why it was one of the reasons it was such a disappointment. It wouldn't have been much better, but I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more if I didn't have such high hopes. Maybe, but also maybe not. But let's just throw the possibility out there. So, as I said, the first issue is that the author mentions frequently that this book is a satire. I don't know if it's just that I have been out of high school or been out of English classes for too long that I don't remember what a satire is, or what the elements of a satire are, or how to identify a satire, but I'm struggling to understand what this book is a satire of. Or like, no, really, what is this book a satire of? That's my biggest issue. If somebody could point it out to me and then show me where the satirical element was done well throughout the whole story, then maybe I'll reconsider my issue. But what is this book a satire of? What exactly is this book using humor to critique? Like, is it critiquing these types of stories where we have like a poor black main character in a rich school? Is it critiquing, I really don't know. Maybe that's the only thing I could think of it critiquing, but that wasn't done well in my opinion, which ties into the last point I'm going to be talking about, but we're going to talk about that at the end. So the next thing, the romance, I didn't like it. It was not done well. I think the book would have been better without it. So the romance in this book is a like half-assed love triangle between, well, not love triangle, lovey, between Adina, one Remington brother Pierce, and another Remington brother Graham, I think his name is. Graham is the first son, Pierce is the second son, and Pierce is the one who whoever wins the finish marries Pierce, right? So Adina is trying to manipulate Pierce to like first she manipulates him for him to offer her a spot in the finish, right? And then in the finish, because she is not rich like the other contestants, she hasn't been training her whole life to win the finish like the other contestants. Her only strategy is to be Pierce's favorite. So he'll, just keep her in mind, right? But she doesn't actually like Pierce. And I think the author forgets that sometimes, because there will be times where Adina is talking about, oh, I don't like Pierce. Well, she'll be talking about how she doesn't like Pierce, and she's only doing this to win the finish, to survive the finish, whatever. But then there also be times where Adina in her mind is like, oh, Pierce, blah, blah, blah. Like there's something, I don't know how to explain it because it's been a while since I've read this book, but there are times where it's very obvious, like from Adina's thoughts and points of frame of mind, that she's only pretending to like Pierce for the benefit of Pierce picking her or liking her more than the other contestants. But then there will also be a couple of lines randomly throughout the story where Adina is like, oh, I have to pick Pierce, or oh, I could see myself falling in love with Pierce, or whatever. Like she's talking about how she wins the finish, she's going to have to marry Pierce, and she's thinking about their life together after they get married, kind of. But it's not just, oh, winning the finish, getting married to Pierce is just one thing that I'll have to get used to. Sometimes she's actually thinking about like married life with Pierce for a couple seconds, and I was like, we don't need this. We know you don't like Pierce. Next thing is, the romance with Graham came out of nowhere. It literally came out of nowhere, and even if it was some kind of insta love thing, which it wasn't, because she didn't like Graham when she first saw him, it wasn't an enemies to lovers, it wasn't a dislike to love or anything. It was just, there's not enough development. There's 1 minute she's like, oh, because Graham is the family disappointment, right? And there's one, like, she sees him and she's like, oh, look at that, the first son of the Remingtons, the family disappointment, blah blah blah. Pierce asks Graham to help Adina with one of the competitions, and she's like, oh, I don't need your help, whatever. And then the next time she sees him, she's like, oh my god, Graham, I'm like, what are we witnessing here? It wasn't done well, and then it wasn't developed properly. And I feel like the book would have been better if the author didn't try to give us like a, oh, she's gonna end up with Pierce if she wins, but she actually likes Graham. If, like, let's not focus on that. Let's actually put some time into the finish. And we don't need the man, right? We don't need the men to be clouding the story. The next thing is the actual finish, the competition in the book. First of all, it took way too long to get to the finish for a book that's about surviving the finish. Like, I understand we need some build up, we need some backstory to Adina, we need like her to get to the finish, her discovering the finish, what it is. But even when she actually got to the location of the finish, it took a good while for the first part of the competition to begin. And why are you wasting my time like this? I don't understand. And then the finish is this like high stakes competition. Girls are dying in like every step of the way. They are killing each other, they're dying from accidents, whatever. That's a high stakes situation. But somehow the finish was still very boring to read about. I don't understand why. I don't understand how he managed to do that. But it was boring. And I was like sluggishly flipping through the pages like, oh Jesus, what's next? Oh my god. I was bored. And I don't like that. The characters, I didn't like Adina. And I know you don't have to like a character to enjoy a book. There's sometimes where the main character is an unlikable character. But I don't believe Adina was written to be unlikable. But I didn't like her. And like, I didn't dislike her so much that I rated the book lower for that. I just wanted to put it out there that I didn't like her as a character. And then there are some times where the author wrote Adina, like her thought process is that she is not as bad as everybody else. And like, once again, you can have an unreliable character where they think they are not the same type of person as everybody else. They're not as bad as everybody else. But when we, the reader, look at what they're doing, we actually know they're just as bad as everybody else. But I don't feel like that's what the author was doing, or if that's what she was doing, it wasn't done well enough for it to come off like that's what she was doing. It was just Adina witnessing these girls wanting to marry peers or wanting to win the finish, and as a consequence marry peers, but also get a spot at such college and get such life and whatever. And she's like, oh my god, I'm not as bad as these girls. But like, she's just annoying. Like, like, she's constantly saying, oh, she's not like this girl, or she's gonna find her own way to do such and such and such. And then she just never pulls it off properly or by herself. And like, there was no point, there was no, like, no actual reason for her to be constantly thinking she's not as bad as such girls, or I'm going to have to become like these girls, or whatever, and then do nothing with it. Like, it was just another element of the story that wasn't written well, in my opinion. And then finally, my biggest issue with this book, which I think ties into the satire part of the book, is that Adina keeps, like, the characters keep mentioning that Adina is poor, or Adina doesn't want to talk about how she's not from the same financial level as the other characters at Edgewater. But the thing is, the way how she keeps talking about her poverty and her poor status is that she's like, oh my god, I'm from the suburbs. I have to separate my suburb life from the Edgewater life. I don't want them to remember that I'm from the suburbs. I don't want to smell like I'm from the suburbs. I miss my suburb foods. I'm like, girl, shut the fuck up about the suburbs. Like, I'm so annoyed. Like, I feel like we did not go one chapter without her mentioning that she's from the fucking suburbs. Suburbs? Like, I get it. Like, you see, this is where I can say, okay, I get it for a satirical book, but I'm just annoyed. I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't find it funny, and like, I'm just annoyed. But anyway, that's my issue with The Ambitious Games by Joelle Wellington. Regarding liking, commenting, and subscribing, do what you want. Bye.